Good morning here on Thursday, April 3rd, 2025 in House Transportation. We are going to start our education piece about the Department of Motor Vehicles, their operations, and all the amazing things that you do every day as one of the most visible faces of government to Vermonters. So we appreciate you joining us, and we'll start educating the committee and DMV 101. And Nancy, thank you very much. You're up first. Identify yourself and take us wherever you have planned to take us this morning.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having us, and I appreciate it. My name is Nancy Prescott, and I'm Director of Operations for the State of Vermont DMV. And I brought with me Ann Young, Branch Operations Manager of all of the branches. We're going to talk to you a little bit today about the branch operations and DMV in general, 101. And we have a lot of great stuff to share with you all, and I definitely am open to conversation and questions along the way.
We should, since we're all too new. That's true. We're also a little hoping we'd be a little fuller.
Yeah.
This is rare. Usually we're quite a bit fuller than that. Good morning, Commissioner. I will start that. Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm Matt Walker, the chair, but from represent Swanton and Sheldon, and the rest of the committee members with 5 new ones, and some that have been a while.
Tim Clark from Bennington.
Kate Lally of Shelburne.
Jim Casey, Addison, Rutland 1.
Patty McCoy serving Pulteney, Ira in that part of Wells, west of Route 30.
Chris Keyser, Rutland City.
And Phil Pouch, Heinsberg.
I appreciate that. So I'm going to talk to you about operations specifically, which is one of 5 of the commissioners' direct reports and units of DMV specifically. Under operations specifically is branch operations, which is what Ann oversees. Mail processing, which you would consider as our back room where things come in from the mail to be processed, licenses and registrations and titles. Our call center, which are the individuals that are answering the phones that are coming in from the Vermonters, as well as other entities, as well as communicating via email. We also have an e-services team, which does and think of everything online. So your license renewal, your online knowledge exams that are happening. We also do the registration renewals. Good morning. E-services is all of help desk, whether it be for other states and other jurisdictions, as well as AMBA, our partner in the automotive industry. We have a driver improvement unit, which think of our reinstatements, our license suspensions, our working with the Judicial Bureau for points from the court system. That unit specifically works with those individuals. Our CDL unit is a small unit that deals specifically with commercial driver's license from the backroom entity. They are processing, reviewing all of the necessary federal documents that are needed in order to have and obtain a commercial license from the work that Ann's team has done prior. The CDL unit is federally regulated to complete the time of the work within a 10-day business period. So we are very busy in that unit.
Just with CDLs, we do have a bill on the wall. Do you have any capacity to add more applications within that? Or is there like pretty much maxed out as far as processing the CDL and the work you need to do?
What does that mean? Can you elaborate a little bit? Like what is
We have a bill on the wall potentially looking at requiring a CDL for certain size RVs.
Okay.
And that would add quite a bit maybe to your department. I was just wondering wondering the capacity within there.
So I appreciate that question, and I'm familiar with what you're referring to. Now, that actually would impact the small CDL unit that we're speaking of, but where it really would be impacting is Ann's team, because those individuals would be required to have a knowledge exam. Those individuals would be required to go through the entry level driving school, which is outside of us, but there is a cost to it. So there would be constraints from a CDL scheduling component of adding those individuals.
Okay.
One of the things that to be considered, going through that is the cost of the entry level driving school that goes with and the training that's involved from a federal guideline, not a state, as well as considering the impact to the individuals that don't have a CDL endorsement at this time. And would you consider it to be grandfathered at and draw the line in the sand? Something to consider for your discussions as well as, or from this day forward.
Yeah, I think like I said, I don't know if we're gonna go there. I just
Sure.
capacity wise, I didn't want to open.
It would tighten up the schedule. It
Yeah,
would
yeah.
definitely tighten up a
Yeah.
schedule. And we're gonna talk about CDL skills tests a little bit. And I think you might get a little bit more of an insight. And please feel free to ask questions on that or clarity.
Representative Burke and then Representative McCoy.
Hi, that came from a bill that I presented on behalf of the constituent who was hit by an RV in Elizabeth. What about special endorsement? What was that? That would be like the next level down. How much impact would that have?
An endorsement would still need to be screened by the federal because it's a commercial. If we go ahead and categorize it as commercial. And it would require a skills test, which is where the constraints are gonna come in.
But not to the same dollar amount as the CDL, and not having to do an outside test and everything.
I would not be able to speak on where a Class A RV would fit into a CDL because that's on the federal side. That tells us what the guideline is.
Okay.
And right now, I'm not aware of anything specific for a Class A.
Thank you.
Sorry, to jump in. Andrew Collier, Commissioner DMV for the record. Pat McMahon is gonna be coming in. He handles the safety and CDL training side of it. He's gonna come in and give a presentation. I don't know which day it is, but he would have more in depth on where that would fall classification wise.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And
Representative McCoy had a question.
I don't know, maybe I should wait on this question until that gentleman comes in, but do you have a sense of how many CDLs currently are out there in the state of Vermont that are current?
I do not, it's the number I can get back to you
Okay, well, I'm
on.
sure the gentleman that's coming in
Yeah.
whenever can get that for us, so, thank you.
You're welcome, and then.
How many do you process a year? But do you have a sense of how many go through the system every year?
How many CDL tests we do a week is, did we say there was 30 a week that we're doing?
CDL skills tests,
Mhm.
30.
That's not including the knowledge tests. Because there's various knowledge tests, which one
Right.
individual sitting at the computer. So
Right.
roughly, we have about 30 a week that we are putting through our 5 test sites.
Right. Pretty. I would just say that Class A representative. Anyway, the Class A, federal Class A CDL is for anything over 26,000 pounds. And it has something to do with towing also. So a lot of those things are not 26,000 pounds, are they?
No.
So.
And then you got Class Cs, I mean, right?
Yeah,
Which are a little
Class C,
smaller.
yeah. Oh, Class Cs are smaller.
Mhm. Yeah, Class A for an RV is the big
Big one?
buses that we
The
see
big
going
one.
down the road, yeah.
Representative Casey.
If they lowered the weight down to 10,000 pounds, like the bill says, wouldn't that put a lot of burden on it? Because I mean, I know my dump truck weighs 9,000 pounds and I don't have a CDL. And so if I go tow something with that bill, wouldn't I have to go get a CDL?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things with law enforcement, with our
Yeah.
commercial vehicle law enforcement. Many individuals will go out and purchase a truck for everyday use, but then once they add a trailer to it and something extremely heavy, that weight does constitute the weight that is allowed. And that is where Law enforcement can speak more of a knowledge piece of it versus me as a subject
Right.
matter expert, but that is where you do need to have your vehicle registered accordingly and appropriately.
But I'm registered for weight, but this would change it if that, but right now I'm good up to 26,000 pounds, right?
Or
Yeah.
regular license, or-
Yeah, on my license, anybody like me, a landscaper, anything.
As long
yeah,
as
that'd
you
put a
are
lot of burden
under
on a
and
lot
as
of little
long as
businesses.
you're not doing the air brakes and as long as
Oh,
you,
yeah.
right, there's lots of, and hazard materials. CDLs are not just a one path and done. I must stress, there are many endorsements that individuals, weight capacity, what you're towing, what you have for a load. There are a lot of variables with a
Yeah.
commercial.
I just see this putting a burden on a lot of small contractors. That's what I see.
Yeah.
I mean, in our town, we had a hard time just getting a couple guys in to go get their CDL.
Mhm.
It's not like there's loaded, the state's loaded with people to teach
And-
these classes.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. That's where Pat McMenon, who is our educator, who will be coming in, that Commissioner Collier mentioned, he oversees these schools. And one, it's costly, and two, there's only so many schools in the state of Vermont, as well as the capacity of getting them in to a spot to obtain the ELDT that's required.
So
Yeah.
builders would probably add to the cost of a building if they had to go through all that. Things cost enough as it is. I'd be wanting to recoup them costs. It's very expensive to get your CDL. But I'm done.
Okay.
Thanks.
So the operational team consists about 170 personnel altogether, give or take. We have 6 full-time offices, and those are permanent. Main office is Montpelier across the street. We have South Burlington, we have Rutland, Bennington, Springfield, and Newport.
Okay.
Our,
We're gonna interrupt you a lot, I think.
okay.
He's anxious to learn and there's lots of
I
questions.
appreciate that.
Sorry,
Representative Howard.
I'm kind of going back one, back to the CDL. So, you know, we have a bill there to make changes, but there's no changes right now. Are you, implying or telling us that right now you have the capacity, there's not excessive waits for getting testing and going through the DMV process?
Well, I suppose that's who you ask for what an excessive weight really means, right? So if I'm an individual, we're booking out about 2 to 3 weeks on our CDL skills test. We have about a 2-week to come in for our knowledge exams. So our neighboring partners across the state have a little bit of a longer wait, which we see the individuals from out of state coming into our schedules. That is one of the things that is allowed for them to get tested and then to take their testing results to the neighboring states. Actually, they could come from anywhere, but we do see that quite a bit with New Hampshire personally. So excessive weights is a matter of opinion. We believe that if we can have a wait between 2 and 3 weeks, we're in good shape.
Okay,
Again, the individual waiting to be tested and the training school waiting to get their students through. Because again, remember, they don't always pass on the first time. And it is a 2-hour block for a CDL skills test, which is something I want everybody to be mindful. It's not a 20, 30-minute exam. The skills test is a pre-trip in a parking lot, on a platform. And once all of those are proven to go out on the road, that is the next step. It is not a quick process. So depending on our location, we're doing 3 to 4 at a max on a day. Okay?
but the average time, 2 to 3 weeks
Yes,
to get through either of those portions.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we are going to get, I love the questions and we're going to keep asking them but we are going to have an entire, or at least a presentation on the entire CDL process. And I know that we've had 3 or 4 members come in since we first started. And we did introductions earlier, and I guess we shall do them real quick again. We'll go back this way. You're gonna introduce Ken Wells represents, and we're gonna go down through, like we do occasionally with new.
Ken Wells, Orleans Three.
And
How you doing?
Candace White, Waitsfield, apologies for my delay. Chloe Tomlinson, Newski, also.
Great, no worries.
Molly Burke, Brattleboro.
thank you very much.
And I'm Nancy Prescott, Director of Operations at DMV.
I'm Ann Young, the branch operations manager, DMV.
And a lot of our presentation today is focused on the branch operations, which Ann oversees with her great team. So I just talked about the 6 full-time offices, Montpelier being our main headquarters right across the street. We have 4 part-time offices, White River, Dummerston, St. Albans, and St. Johnsbury. That means that we are at that location at least once a week, if not twice a week. The team travels from Montpelier and heads in the morning directly to that location and returns at the end of the day to our Montpelier location.
Can you just talk about how it's set up now? Like you have to call up in advance to set an appointment, you allow walk-ins, just how does that work now?
Thank you for that question. So during COVID, we were fortunate enough to be able to stay open and serve the public. And by doing so, we were able to put forward the platform of scheduling appointments. At that time with COVID, we absolutely needed appointments. We needed to control the individuals coming in and all of the COVID constraints at that time. We continue to use the scheduling system. There is a lot of added value to the scheduling system from a customer perspective as well as from our staffing perspective. We do take walk-ins at this time. They are all served. However, it is to be noted that it is always best to make an appointment because the individuals that make appointments are served prior to those that are coming in as a walk-in without an appointment. We understand that's not always able to be done. And at the end of the day, everybody that comes through our doors, we serve them all before we leave.
Well, the 170 employees, are they broken down in, you said on the slide, it was 170, is that in there, included in those offices are all in that total, like?
Absolutely,
Including-
plus all of these units.
Okay.
That's a great question. So yes, 170 directly through. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. It takes a lot of great individuals to make the work happen for our consumers.
I was kind of interested in how many might be in general guess, in each of, how many are in South Burlington, Rutland, Bennington, Springfield, approximately.
Yeah, please.
I
So
just have to identify yourself though for your first to be.
Ann Young, branch operations manager of DMV. So there are roughly 20 employees in South Burlington, 10 in Rutland, 5 in Bennington, 6 in Springfield, 5 in Newport, 20 in Montpelier, and the mobile unit consists of 10 individuals, and that's counting the supervisors.
I missed that one, sorry.
20.
Thank you.
And that includes our personnel of supervisors, examiners, counter employees, all in that number.
Representative what?
Quick question on your part-time offices. Are those state buildings that you use a couple days a week or share with another state agency, or how do they sit vacant when you're not staffing them? How does that work?
That's a great question. Not all our offices, but some of our offices are state buildings. And yes, they stay vacant when we are not there. Some of our locations are actually leased spaces from other entities.
Okay, thank you.
We have individuals to continue on that do from the agency that know our office locations, including our law enforcement team, that every once in a while will say, hey, is this available for whatever reason that they're going to be in those areas, want to use the office space, and they will go into that space. let's talk about our testing sites, which I think is one that we have been talking about, which is CDL. So we have 5 CDL testing skills types, sites. We have Colchester, we have St. Johnsbury, we're in Barry, Rutland, and Springfield. The point of having these identified location is trying to stretch throughout the map of Vermont to have individuals not to have to drive to just Barry, Vermont for all of the skills testing needs. We're being mindful of the gas, the time, the driving, to be able to get to the locations, and these have been identified as testing sites. As you can imagine, the CDL testing site footprint is quite significant. It is a 140 by 240 paved area that we are needing in order to do the pre-trip on, before we go out on the main road. Then from there, we evaluate what the road test can look like. Does it meet all of the needs that needs to be checked, going over railroad tracks, hitting a little bit of a highway, right, and escalating into the speed. There is a lot of things that are considered when we're looking at our testing sites that need to be checked off. How long does that test route going to consist of in order to meet all of those necessary checkboxes? We have 3 motorcycle skills testing sites, Colchester, Rutland, and Barry. And I will emphasize, this is DMV's exams where somebody's coming in to do a motorcycle only test. It is not our ride program. That's a weekend program. We test in Colchester, Rutland, and Barry, and we test in May to October, and our weekend program is so successful, and Pat is going to talk about that when he comes. It is so successful that our numbers have continued to get and be reduced. So there's a lot of great safety components in that weekend class that one doesn't get by just going in for their motorcycle exam. In-person visits. We are approximately have about 5,500 individuals come to our branches weekly. We have approximately 550 regular road exams that are scheduled. So regular road exams are your traditional car, not commercial. These are some of our,
Is that also weekly, just to?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And here are some photos of our grade officers and some of the team members there. What services?
Nancy, how would you, that 5,500 in person, how would that compare to pre-COVID and before and pre and whatnot in terms of in your modernization act? I'm sure we're gonna hear more about, and then maybe what you anticipate come November after there's even more services available online. What does that number compare to, pre-COVID years?
It is less.
By a substantial amount? What do you think? Any ballpark idea of?
That's a number I can get back to you. I can pull our pre-COVID numbers. I do know we've been monitoring it. I would hesitate to give you what that percentage is without looking. We do know our online with our license renewals, our registration ability to go on there and start a new registration by not coming into the office is readily and heavily used, as well as registration renewals. So we are definitely seeing fewer people in our offices. And we continue to see that trend, and I'll be happy to get that number for you.
Thank you. I'm looking along the lines of, as I know you keep looking at what else those people can be doing when they're not having to be at the desk and what resources that has
Yes.
provided for the rest of the.
And to answer that question, what I can tell you is of the branches, when there is downtime, if you would, there's not a customer in front of them, they are pulling into the online work. So they are working through the knowledge exams from a permit and working that. Our e-service is newly developed. We have not figured out at this time what is our capacity or need of individuals to sufficiently work the workload that's been coming in. We continue to tap into the other resources. It is not just the e-services team, which consists of 3 people plus a supervisor right now. Our examiners often will tap into the knowledge exams, our license renewals, our mail processing team on the second floor is also assisting on that, as well as the individuals in the branches are hopping on the phones and answering calls from our branches, from the call center that's coming in. We have that set up, so calls are able to be taken out of queue, no matter where you're located.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So what services can you complete at a branch location? You can do a new or a renew credential. We still continue to have those individuals, to your point, Chair, of individuals coming in fewer into our branch offices, but we are always going to have that demographic of individuals that just love coming into DMV. It's what they know, whether it is their social outing or it's just their routine. And again, that's what they know and don't want to touch the online. We're always going to have that demographic. As it's been going down, we do have those individuals that can renew online, but they choose to come in. Okay. We have testing exam, knowledge, and our skills tests.
Representative McCall.
Yeah, except if you have to get your picture taken.
That's correct. And that's every 9 years. So you have an opportunity to renew online in between.
I mean, just on that note, with your new system, will you allow people to upload a photo on their own or no?
Not at this time. That is not in the plans. I imagine in the future that'll be open to discussion in the future as we continue to modernize. But right now, that is not on the agenda.
So is the, I'm looking at the commissioner as well. Will the real ID allow that? I'm not sure. I don't know how, I mean, I don't know what you do.
I don't know that question yet. I do know passports.
Yeah.
They allow you to take a picture now and upload it.
Right. Yeah.
How that,
Just fast.
how we intersect with that policy, yeah, I don't know. We'll find out for you, but,
Okay.
yeah, sure, I
I know passports you can, but I mean, some of them, when you see them, it's like, I used to be a passport agent. It's like, I don't think that one's gonna pass. So,
Representative Corcoran.
That just jogged my memory from last year. We had a piece of legislation in there allowing DMV to basically allow an individual to upload their ID, their license onto an app. So they could use that for identification, maybe going to a bar or whatever. Have we completed that task or? You know?
So that change in legislation last year was to open up the door and the discussion to be able to move potentially with mobile IDs.
Correct.
We have not gone in that direction at this time, but that moving that in there definitely has opened up the opportunities to be able to bring that forth. With that comes a lot of different system changes. Our current modernization will allow for it with additions, but it's one thing at a time, I guess you would say, with our large lift that we're going through.
That's fine. I was just wondering if we have actually implemented.
We have not. I appreciate the question, though.
that is a direction a lot of states are going that way.
Yeah, that's what we heard last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So as I was mentioning, we have testing exam, which includes our knowledge and our skills test. So I want to break that down a little bit. So our knowledge exams for regular knowledge, which is our permits for what we would consider and what we think of mostly is our individuals that are 15 years old and going through. That is an online opportunity now. Our knowledge testing on the commercial end, which has many various different tests, is done in-house at all of our branch locations.
Could you just repeat that?
Yes.
Thank you.
So our Class D, which is a license that you and I all hold without that commercial level. Your online knowledge exam which is your permit, is online specifically now offered. One can come in if there is a need to our office, just like before, but it is mostly done online. Our commercial knowledge exams are all done in the offices, at a computer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did that answer?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Representative Howe?
Eye exams.
Mhm.
Can you talk about those?
I do have a slide to talk about vision
Okay.
screening,
Yeah,
or I'm happy to go.
no.
Okay.
Slide, yeah.
I did hear that was a topic in this room, so I wanted to be sure to have a little bit of information to share. Great. And again, our skills test for both our Class Ds, which is most of the individuals, license holders, are done from all of our locations. Those are about a 20 to a 30-minute time slot for going out, reviewing what is needed prior, what is reviewing afterwards, after the test, and going through that process of what did the examiner see. Then we also have our skills test, which is our commercial, which is what I had talked about earlier, our larger platform, about 2 hours for the exam, 3 to 4 a day. Driver reinstatements, individuals that have completed from any needs that was posted on them from the Judicial Bureau, any points, any suspensions, if there is an out-of-state suspension that needed to be cleared up, all of those reinstatements happen at our offices. Those appointments specifically are probably the longest appointment timeframe that is needed to work through. There's a lot of different entities between the Judicial Bureau, the court system, that our staff is working through the various computer systems as well as the out-of-state. Registration, new and renews are done in our offices. Handicap placards are done in our offices. Titling, as we all know, has been quite a topic lately, and now that we're titling everything. Voter registration is done at our offices, as well as organ donation designation. Actually, right here, if you see that picture at the top there, where there's an individual leaning forward, there's an individual with a headset, that individual is taking a commercial knowledge exam right there. And then to the left of that picture, that is an individual going out for a Class D, regular license exam. Our computer kiosks for the commercial are quite large, as you can see there.
Nancy, real fast, if you don't mind me interjecting. Are you able to touch on when people are taking testing with different languages, how we accommodate that?
Yes. So for regular knowledge, we offer it in 15 various, which includes American Sign Language. That is done through the computer. The individual will choose the language that they're looking for, and that is then translated for the regular knowledge. Commercial vehicle, it is noted by the feds that it must be given in English. And so on the computer, it is strictly English.
Okay.
Yeah, there were some, a couple years ago, I had a query from a constituent who was working with the Afghan population in Brattleboro. We have a significant number. And they really wanted to be CDL drivers, but the it was huge. But I don't know if there's any way to address that in the future.
We have been working with individuals with one-offs with the various communities, and our examiners have been working through. The federal guidelines tell us we can only have it in English, and it cannot be interpreted. So we have, and specifically has been working with, and one of them actually was in Brattleboro, if I remember correctly. And we have been trying to work through together what that looks like. We have had some success with getting people through in passing their exams, but the language barrier with the knowledge piece is quite, there's quite a bit. And that definitely continues to be a barrier where these schools and I know there's one definitely in the Brattleboro area, that they've been working with those individuals more so, trying to help understand what the language means in a CDL capacity versus perhaps what they're thinking of it in translation to help those individuals be able to pass the exam. So I do know that there continues to be a lot of great work. But it's more of one-offs versus, again, our commercial knowledge from the computer stand is only English.
That sounds promising. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to help wherever we can. We have to be mindful and sometimes we're a little creative. So.
So at the branches, so you used to hear all these stories about, the waits at the DMV. I don't know, maybe I'm not as aware of before, but I don't hear them nearly as often. I know you testified previously about wait times and whatnot. I don't know, do we even hear that as an issue anymore of any significance?
So that is a great point, and I love it, and very much like, Representative Couch, thank you, mentioned about what is the timeline to get in for a CDL. What is one's timeline? It's all in, again, the individual state. If I have lots going on and I choose to come to DMV, I'm not going to be happy necessarily, right? But that doesn't mean it wasn't a realistic expectation. Our wait times are 8 minutes on the average to get to the counter, get your transaction, depending on which type of transaction you're doing is depending on the time that you're at the counter. But the average is less than 15 minutes to get to the counter if you have a scheduled appointment, right? You're gonna wait longer depending on when you come, depending on how many customers we've got scheduled. But no, we don't hear that. You know who we do hear it from though? Our friends from out of state that are moving to Vermont, they are loving the Vermont experience. They love the Vermont experience. They're like, oh, I came from here, I came from there, and I had to wait this long, right? It's us. It's Vermonters who know what we get for time and what we feel we should have for time. And we feel the state of Vermont, DMV, we feel if you're being served in 30 minutes or less, then we are doing really, really good. One of the things that we get hit on, which we try to navigate, is lunch times. Our staff take lunch. They don't all go at the same time. We stagger them out. But as you can imagine, we do build a backup because other individuals are coming during their lunchtime. End of the day is also another time where we can get our constraints. We call it the DMV bus drop off. At 3:50, our doors lock at 4 o'clock to serve all the customers in there. And we get quite a few individuals that come. So those individuals at that time can tend to have a little bit of a higher weight. But majority of the individuals are very understanding. They're very human-like, which is a great experience. And for those individuals that have experienced long wait times pre-COVID are celebrating and having such a great experience. So we're happy with that on both ends because it's the fewer people that we have angry at our staff, it helps to be able to serve with a positive outlook for others. Let's talk about credentials. So we do IDs.
Very timely, it was a big discussion yesterday.
Hey, we do IDs, we do licenses. We have non-real IDs, which currently are called driver privilege cards, but as you are aware, that is going to be pivoting to non-real ID. These are, and I have a couple slides that are going to show the variables. So the one on your left is a non-real ID. You will notice that that does not have the star in the right corner. That star in the right corner is the real ID symbol. Okay. Down on the bottom in the middle, you'll see a veteran designation that's available to individuals, as well as a heart, which is a designation for organ donation.
I guess.
These are,
I have, so the non-driver identification card, so they don't drive, but they go through all the other machinations to get a real ID because it has the star in the corner.
If they,
So they can, like a piece of mail and their social security card.
Correct.
and Their birth certificate.
they must bring in all of the
stuff.
documents, yes.
So, but for not being able to drive because they haven't taken the driver's
Correct.
test, it is a non-real
That's-
ID that we used to call
No.
a
So-
non-driver real ID.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, you
Okay.
got it.
All right.
You got it. You're welcome.
Okay.
Representative Tomlin?
I guess another clarifying question about the IDs. So, and are we gonna go over this?
We
piece separately?
are.
Okay, maybe I'll hold it until.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. I thought that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
It's the license comparison sheet, which I do have it as well, in the next
Okay.
couple slides. I just wanted to show the actual credential. So the next one talks about the enhanced license. That is specific to border crossing by land only, not air. Air, you need a passport, but by land, crossing our borders to Canada, Mexico, you will see that it has an American flag on there. That is the enhanced license. You will also notice the enhanced license has the star, which is real ID. In order to have that level of enhanced, you need to go through everything real ID plus the questionnaire for an enhanced. Commercial driver's license is the next one. Now, this one does not have to be enhanced. This just happened to be the sample that I grabbed. This one is an enhanced, which has your American flag. Commercial driver's licenses are real IDs. They must provide all of the necessary documentation. In order to obtain a commercial, you must be real ID. And so that's why you see that designation.
As far as providing the information, is that just like a one-time deal or after like 9 years, do you have to reproduce those documents to keep them real ID compliant?
Great question, and the answer is yes and no. So the answer is no on a regular basis for most individuals. If you are real ID, but you choose to want to go up to the enhanced, then yes, you need to bring in your documents again, and then we'll go through that. Okay, but once we've got you as real ID, we have everything in the system, and majority of the time, the answer would be no to that.
So what are the questions that, I mean, are they like, what are they? Have you ever been incarcerated? Have you, what questions would you ask to enhance a driver's license?
So one of the things with Enhance that I will share is they are our questions for the state of Vermont. They were created by Homeland.
Okay,
Okay, so this is a program that allows that border crossing.
okay.
So we are governed by that. We are audited by that. Do you want to talk a little bit about the questions that are on there? They're
Sure. So they are, oh, I'm Ann Young.
You're good once you did it once. Once you did it once. Once you did it the first time, we are good.
Thank you. The questions consist of roughly about 15, and they're related to, if you're a US citizen, have you ever renounced or rescinded your US citizenship, your mother's maiden name, date of birth, where you received your documents. So if you're handing in a birth certificate, where did you obtain your birth certificate? So it's questions around the documents that we are seeing, and then just kind of questioning certain things on those documents to see if everything there matches up with what they're saying to us.
Okay.
So while the interview is happening, the documents are on the counter side with the employee.
Just to kind of make sure we actually know what those documents
Right,
are. Yes.
and where they
Okay.
came from, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so what documentation is needed to obtain a Vermont credential? Identity and date of birth, social security, Vermont residency, lawful status in the US only required if one is applying for a real ID or an EDL. And now on here, I did do the hyperlink for the Vermont license comparison, which you all have, or you may have in front of you. And that's going to talk about the various types of licenses that we have. What is it that you need to bring in order to obtain one of those? So if you turn to this 2-page that I passed out. Also, I asked for this to be put on your committee page as well for reference. This is out on our DMV webpage. And when we went live with Real ID back in 2014, this was a fabulous tool to help educate our Vermonters on what is it that you're really looking for? What is it that you have and what is it that you need to bring in? So on here, you will see the various, you have the enhanced driver's license, the Real ID compliant, and the non-Real ID. So, and to your point, whether it is a non-driver or a driving license, depending on the type you want, is what you need to bring in. Okay. So when you look at here, so the first thing is your, where did I want to go? Your social security. You must present your social security card or a letter from the Social Security Administration for your ineligibility if you are not eligible. You must present 2 pieces of documents that have your current name and your physical address. And those are the various items in here that are just suggestions of what an individual could be looking for. Where we find some challenges to help guide individuals is when they're moving from out of state and coming to Vermont initially. And they're very timely on turning in their old license and getting in a new one. This is one of the pieces that we work with our customers in regards to helping them obtain and get what they need to provide for those. Proof of citizenship is required for an enhanced, as well as on there for, it's not required for Real ID and it's not required for non-Real ID, but what is lawful status of the United States, which is that next bullet down.
Representative Burr?
So regarding the identity and date of birth, I have a constituent, and I just wrote to the commissioner about it, who has a discharge paper from the Army, but does not have it. Had a driver's license in others in the state of Maine, I believe, got a driver's license in Vermont, but then went to renew. Now it's Real ID compliant. He cannot produce a birth certificate.
So we do require a birth certificate. Individuals are able to actually go online and get birth certificates from majority. What's the name of that? Thank you. That is exactly it. Thank you for that. It is Vital Records. You punch in what state you were born in, and it's an opportunity, and it tells you the path to go down of what is needed. There are a few states that require you to reach out directly to them, but majority of the states in the country offer the ability to get a birth certificate through Vital Statistics.
So you go Vital Records and
Vital Statistics.
Vital Statistics. And if,
And you can obtain.
and go to the state you were born in.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he knows town. He was 2 months old when he left.
I do not know that you actually need the
Okay.
town.
So just the name.
It's the name in the state. It'll walk you right through. And Representative Burke, if there's anything I can help with, feel free to let me know.
It may be that, I'm not sure how computer savvy he is.
Fair. Happy to assist. That is something the individuals do have to do. I can help guide.
Yeah.
Because there are fees involved with getting a copy, and it's certified copy of the birth certificate that we need. I think we're through this at this point because we have been Real ID since 2014. But what individuals were bringing to us were those little footy prints from the hospital registration and saying, here's my birth certificate. It's cute, but not certified birth certificate.
Baptismal certificate.
No, that does not.
Right, thank you. That's very helpful.
Representative Burke, I'm gonna respond to you, Senator Harrison also reached out yesterday. We've reached out, I reached out to Veterans Affairs as well to see if they have any programs to help with that, and we are verifying on the DD 214 if that's something limited basis we can, if it has the information needed. So I wanted to close the loops on all those before I respond back.
Great.
So we're trying to, best we can, trying to.
Thank you so much. I
But,
just thought I'd ask, well.
No, absolutely.
who's here, but,
uh,
and it might be useful to the people in the committee too, at some point. Somebody had some other problem, but thank you, appreciate that.
Yep.
So again, this license comparison is on our on our website. It is out on your committee page. It is the hyperlink as well on this PowerPoint presentation. And if you and or any of your constituents have questions of what they're trying to obtain, which one are they trying to obtain, and questioning what it is that they need, this really is a great outline to help guide that conversation.
Thompson, please.
So just to make sure I understand, so for kind of a quote unquote like regular driver's license, the Class D, there's these like 3 categories, but there's really 6 different types of IDs you could get because each of these 3 types could be either for someone who's a driver or a non-driver. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
That is very correct. To your point, you can have a non-driver enhanced
Yeah.
because it's giving you that chip to cross over,
Mhm.
which is real ID.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
These questions, these are great. We're gonna have all you experts out there educating our population. I love it.
DMV question.
I love it. Okay. Now move on to the next. All right, vision screening. Let's talk about this, which you are referencing as an eye exam, and I'm gonna reference it as a vision screening. Because an eye exam to me means that you are going to a professional optometrist or ophthalmologist, which none of us are at DMV. So a vision screening is done at the time of a customer transferring their license from out of state. It is a customer coming to remove the need of corrective eyewear such as glasses and or contacts restriction on their current license. And before a road exam, a regular road exam, including driver re-exams. It is not done for a commercial exam because it's already done from the medical certification that comes in that's needed for a commercial license. So as you see in this photograph, those are our screening devices that we utilize. And what it consists of is we ask the individuals to read a specific row, and it consists of 12 numbers. And they must be able to repeat at least at a minimum 8 correctly.
Question from Representative Thompson.
Yes, on the CDL, so you have medical sort of approval process, and which includes a vision. Are CDLs, if you're a CDL holder, do you have to do that again after so many years?
You have yes, the feds do have in there of how often you have to go and get a medical, depending on if you are interstate, of your credential. And the answer is yes on that.
I would be curious to find out if you could let us know. Is there, as you get older, does that require more specific times other than?
No, it is specific to the federal guidelines of you holding a commercial driver's license and depending on if it's inter or intra, and then you are required, just like everybody else, it is regardless of age. You are required to do medical.
But as you get older, does it kick in more often?
It does not.
Okay.
It does
I'm
not.
curious to find out how often you have to do that for the different categories.
It's 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Correct.
For both interstate and intrastate.
That's correct.
So no matter what age you are, every 2 years, you have to show vision and medical.
Correct. And it's vision and other items that are checked off. They do their hearing. They have many different components.
Okay, thank you.
Blood pressure and
Yeah.
yes.
That, there's other questions, Representative Boyd?
So, I live in New York and I moved into Vermont and I'm going to transfer my New York driver's license to Vermont. Do I need a vision screening, a road exam, and the written exam?
Good question, and the answer is no.
Okay.
You're coming to us, with a valid driver's license from New York.
Correct.
You will come in with the documents from the license comparison of whichever one that you are choosing to go with. You will go through our vision screening though,
Okay. Okay.
but no
But no.
knowledge,
No
no
I think I
skills
had to
test.
do that when I, like, whenever I came in here.
If your license is expired, is the answer to that. If you come with a valid license, then you've been driving with authority from that other state, we accept that. But if
Okay.
you come to us with an expired license, that's when it changes everything. Or, let me just add one more to that. If you're a Vermonter and you have your license with us and life happens for whatever reason and your license lapse over 3 years, you're then gonna provide us the documents, do the vision screening, do the knowledge test and the road exam. So don't let your license lapse.
So you don't have to do the knowledge test anymore. I know I had to do that when I came here. But it was like 46 years ago. And I moved from Texas, so. I don't know. I had to read the driver's manual and take the exam.
I don't know.
Okay,
That's one of the things I think I might
Maybe they
change
didn't-
my-
maybe in Texas, it's like, yeah,
To
just,
get rid of-
here's your license, drive.
Representative Burt?
So as you may know, that bill we're referring to about the CDL also had a vision, test vision for everybody after age 70.
Yes.
And again, this came about from my constituent who was hit by an elderly driver who did not have good eyesight and didn't have insurance either. And so I guess I'm just wondering what impact would that, oh, and then a colleague of ours wrote and said that her sister had been killed by somebody who was driving an ocular dementia and hit her sister who was on a sidewalk that was supposedly safe for a blind person. Anyways, I'm just giving you the context for why it's written about. And I just wondered what the impact would be to you to have to screen drivers over the age of 70, or what would it be possible for somebody to get a certification from an eye doctor? Or would you, if this happened, would you want to be the person to do the testing?
There would be an impact to DMV if that was pushed forward from individuals needing to come into the office to have this, that those individuals perhaps are not coming into the office to renew their licenses. So there is the share of those individuals that are taking the opportunity to renew online would perhaps no longer have that opportunity. It would increase our wait times and it would increase our individuals that are coming into the offices. Right now, because we do not ever say that we are the professional expert of being an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. And on here, so back to the vision screening, if one individual does not meet the minimum requirement, which includes the peripheral vision test through the screening device, we do give the individual a medical evaluation for the individual to take to their optometrist and or ophthalmologist to have that evaluation done. So I believe in what you are suggesting. Could it be done through a professional and have that medical? We currently do have that as an option.
But you might, like, if you required it, then you could accept an outside evaluation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a sense of what complications of this.
Sure. But to answer your question, if it was done at DMV, there would be an impact that we would have to work through from those components. And I have to imagine that if we are asking individuals to go and get that screening done, that there may be a cost contributed to it for those that may not have it covered under their insurance or so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the CDL portion, if you have a bus driver endorsement, I guess is what it's called. You mentioned medical vision. How often do they have to? Is that an every 2-year piece on the bus driver?
It is.
And that medical is the same as the CDL?
It is, and Pat McMenamin will also speak of that specifically, because he also reviews and conducts all of the school bus clinics. So
I want to
he,
hear more about that. Okay.
yeah, is that something?
And if there's a delay in getting your medical to DMV or having your medical done, your endorsements, so your CDL in general is affected, but also your endorsement, so your school bus endorsement, your hazmat endorsement, those will also be removed. If the medical, sorry, I'm trying to think, the medical is not completed
Down.
anytime, so I will dive far deeper into it, but that is, those endorsements do come off, get pulled from my individual.
Will downgrade an individual, and the CDL unit that I was speaking of those small unit that works the back room of that. That is one of the things that they are always looking at. They're looking at the medicals. Did it come from a physician that's approved from the FMCSA? And as Commissioner Collier was saying, anything that does not come in timely, they're the individuals that will downgrade, send out communication, try to reach out by phone, and send out a letter to state that we have to receive this by XYZ, or your credential will be downgraded. It does happen. FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
All right.
The feds. It is, isn't it? And I know you know.
Bus driver shortages, bus driver questions and issues or something that seem to have been hit with recently, so.
It's been a topic, hasn't it?
We're gonna
Yeah.
hear more about how hard it is or not, and whether what licenses have or have not been downgraded, I guess. So-
Yeah, and Pat is very knowledgeable in talking about the training aspect of it, as well as evaluating and keeping on top of what the shortages have been looking like in Vermont. So I'm sure that you're gonna have a great conversation with him. All right, I'm gonna move on to registrations. So what documents do you need to obtain a Vermont registration? You need to have proof of Vermont residency. That is something that recently changed, and we are grateful and appreciate all of the work that you helped to assist to move that path forward. Proper chain of ownership listed on the title, or if it's a brand new vehicle, you'll come with an MCO, which is a manufacturer's certificate of origin. If an individual is buying something from a Vermont dealer, usually all of the dealer paperwork is completed versus the individual needing to come into the office. We have a great partnership with our Vermont dealers. And that actually goes with our out-of-state dealers. The individual's paperwork that comes in is usually completed by dealers in general. So for individuals that are buying things from their neighbor or another individual, this is also the requirement that they need to review of what is needed and what to come into the office to be prepared. VIN verification when it is applicable, which would be a salvage title, a title under bond, registration from a foreign country of a vehicle, and an affidavit of non-titleable vehicles. And a bill of sale and the odometer disclosure. I did include the hyperlink on here, which is on our website for what I think is pretty fantastic, which is a registration wizard that anybody can go out to that is looking to register a vehicle, and it goes step by step. What is this vehicle that you bought? Who did you buy it from? This is the application that you need to bring in. This is the form. Oh, what is the year, make, and model? What is the VIN? Oh, this is how much tax you're going to end up paying, right? And it breaks it all down. It is fantastic. I also asked to have this put on your committee page as well for future reference.
Have numbers, and for the newer members here, we had a piece of legislation there regarding residency. You had to be a resident of Vermont before you could register being from anywhere. And there was sort of like a carve out. There was you know, if you look here part-time, you just had to have some connection
Mhm.
to, the state of Vermont. Has our registration numbers gone down due to this, new policy that we have? Because I think in my mind, anecdotally, there was a lot of people that were registering in the state of Vermont.
It was a loophole.
A lot of people took advantage of that, you know, for illegal, probably some activities and stuff.
That is
It's cheaper.
correct.
Yeah,
Insurance is
yeah.
That is correct. But they were registering in Vermont, but they didn't live in Vermont. So
Yeah.
we have gotten over the hurdle in regards to our part-time residents. There are a few one-offs working with our dealers and so forth. And then the dealer paperwork comes in and it has a Florida address and so forth. It's a staffing education as well. And we have done extremely well in navigating through that. To your point, there have been a reduction of the quantity coming in from certain individuals that we would see on a weekly basis, to your point.
Yeah.
Those have been reduced, but the number, I could get back to you on what that percentage
Yeah,
looks
I
like.
was curious, you know, how much of an impact, because like I said, it was sort of twofold. We wanted to have residency requirements and try to tackle people. I think Vermont was. They came to us for, you know, certain legal, yeah.
They
insurance
did.
And everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
That was
other
curious.
question on that, is how much did it reduce from an investigative piece?
Yeah,
Because this
absolutely.
was impacting our law enforcement investigators, because Ann's frontline staff were seeing it. And that's where we notably noticed the decrease, because certain individuals were no longer in our schedules.
Yeah,
And they weren't coming with just one.
yeah.
Representative Keys?
So, this system registers all vehicles in the state of Vermont.
The system,
In other words, you register cars and trucks and the whole gamut of trucks you register.
that's correct.
So you have a database of all the registrations of trucks by class?
Goes by the VIN. We take the VIN,
Yeah,
and then the VIN populates in and tells us what that vehicle is associated with. So now whether we need a 2290 for the oversized, which I think is where you may be heading
not
to.
necessarily.
Okay. So that is, the answer is yes
Okay,
on that. It defines what type of the vehicle it is.
right. So, but does your database hold, for example, all class 8 trucks that are registered in the state of Vermont?
So we use a program called VIN Intelligence. That is a software piece that we purchase a subscription to, and it does give us all of that information.
Okay, so any class of truck, so if there's ability, I would be interested to know the number of trucks that are registered in new trucks, just new trucks that are registered in the state of Vermont, say in 24.
New trucks that are registered in the state of Vermont for 2024, just to
That's
make
good.
sure that I'm,
All classes.
All classes of trucks, all trucks. And it would be really cool if you break it down by class.
let me see what kind of data we can get for
Yeah,
you.
okay, thank you
Absolutely.
for that.
Yeah.
Chair.
Yep, I'm sorry. When I'm making notes, I guess, sorry, please.
Thank you. Just a clarification question on the registration requirements. So assuming that someone has to show, and perhaps you covered this, residency, could a person who is a second homeowner and who is here for 2 weeks a year, they can register in Vermont?
That is correct.
If a person who is leasing, doing a seasonal rental and shows their lease, and can they also, I mean,
So
whether you're
this-
a seasonal renter or
We need to be able, so we would look at the lease agreement to show that they are actually living here. And the answer would be yes on that. And that would be a one-off on that, because we're looking for a tax bill, electric bill, something in their name that ties them here. So when you say seasonal rental, my mind kind of goes to the Airbnb and VRBO. So if somebody's coming here on vacation, no
Yeah.
If they're coming here for work, and or retirement, whatever that may be for 4 months, then that would probably note that and be. Well,
So if they've got an electric bill or something, then that's.
yeah, the whole point of this passing was really not about reducing individuals to have the opportunity to register a vehicle, but to mitigate the amount of fraud that Vermont was seeing in regards to Vermont being used as a loophole. There was things out on YouTube showing and guiding individuals, go to Vermont DMV for this and that, and we were getting them from all over the country.
Yeah.
So again, the reason for the proof of Vermont residency wasn't about minimizing the who from that angle of things, more so from trying to reduce the amount of fraud. Because what was happening is a lot of the vehicles, and again, investigations and our law enforcement will be coming up here, so I'm sure they'll be happy to share on that piece. But individuals from storms that were happening in other states were being washed in Vermont by registering them, changing up the title that now looked like a clean title from things that had been deemed flooded. We are on the NMVDIS now, but prior to, which is the National Motor Vehicle Database. So now we're seeing the brands that other states had on there. So we're carrying those on there, another way to mitigate. But that was definitely one of the high reasons of pushing this forward, one of the few reasons.
I know Bennington had a big issue, in the Airbnb.
Yes,
There was a lot of transactions, but anyways.
yeah. Close to the border.
Fuel money jumping in, I won't flag this one subject. This is very early in the process, so it's gonna be probably a next year item, but we are looking at, we're tightening up what we classify residency as well too. I know it's been done, but we're still seeing some areas where definition of resident here in Vermont is. I loop it back to that, what landlords have, or if we have issues of, say someone's sleeping on someone's couch for a short amount of time, and they can say, well, you have to go through an eviction process. I know it's slightly different, but we're running into still this fraud issue of in our enforcement team. It is an issue where you guys are able to, when the enforcement team's in here, just pay particular attention to, because we are still seeing quite a bit of defining residency here in Vermont, and it's still I need to visit next year. We'll post them.
Yeah, well, I hear you. That was a tough issue for us to see. Good luck trying to define that.
Is it 30 days or something?
And I know, just working on the road as a trooper, we would have cases of someone just being on someone's couch for a week and then saying, I'm not leaving, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure in a couple of years if things have changed a little bit, but it's a very difficult area, I guess, to define. I think tightening up on what we're considering maybe for documents, mail, proving it maybe that way, is an option. Again, we're gonna come forward, we're working through it right now internally, but I just want to flag that, highlight that area as, especially when our enforcement team's in here. We hear about residency.
Continued, great efforts already moved forward, but continuing to keep working on. So again, the registration wizard is a fabulous piece to help guide our consumers, to help be prepared. So that is one of the things that I strongly encourage you to go out and dabble with if you have the time, or if you have a constituent reaching out. And then on here is talking about some of our great team members and their awards. So on the left is our South Burlington team for Donate Life Awareness. Donate Life Awareness is actually the month of April in the state of Vermont. We are actually celebrating with Matt Boger on April 14th at our main office in Montpelier. Their offices all get into a little bit of a friendly competition, decorating each branch accordingly to show their festivities. And with the partnership of organ donation and bringing forth this awareness, for me personally, seeing our offices get so involved in this and our customers that come in, what I've learned is donate life awareness is not just out in Vermont in general. It actually has impacted many of our employees, family members, and friends that have been, and it just brings a story so close to home. So I am extremely grateful that the state of Vermont is in partnership with donor organ donation and having our driver licenses have that on there. That is something that individuals have an opportunity to put that designation on their license, as well as remove it if they have a change of heart. Again, the designation on your license does not necessarily mean it's going to happen if an individual did not have a conversation with their loved ones that are actually making the decision at that time. There's a lot of great things that happen with this, but we all don't know. I certainly am not a subject matter expert, but I'm always continually in awe of all the great things that do come of this. So that is one of the things I'm very proud of that the DMV is part of. The second is with our Secretary Flynn and Kara, our employee from the Rutland office, and our previous Commissioner Manoli for a public service award. Kara was on our modernization project, came in from the Rutland office every single day into the Berry City place. She added tremendous value to going into the office every single day. And after that, we were down a supervisor in Bennington. We had no leadership, new employees. Kara from Rutland's like, I will help. What can I do? And then she was traveling from Rutland to Bennington every single day, leading that team on, bringing on a new supervisor, sharing, training, mentoring. So she was recognized for this service award. And she is one employee that I'm extremely grateful to have part of our team. The next picture is the Examiner of the Year. We are part of AAMVA, which is American Automobile Administrators Association. We certify all of our examiners through their training program. That means an individual is going through a criteria of online in class, as well as out on the roadway for specific training in order to be certified to become an examiner. And then from that, we award an Examiner of the Year once a year. They are recognized through AAMVA, and then AAMVA throughout the country will choose the Examiner of the country. So this is Wesley. He is our examiner in the Rutland office.
Go Rutland.
Right?
Yeah.
Rutland is definitely on the board here. And then most recently, we partnered up with Red Ribbon Tree Awareness. That was held or is held every year at the State House. This was in great collaboration where we brought forth the visual of the trees with the red ribbons in all of our branch offices this year to bring and heighten that awareness more, in addition to, I should say, than just that one day at the State House and bringing that. We had that there from Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving, all the way through New Year's to bring that awareness of the red ribbon tree. And then on here is my and Ann's contact on here for future reference. If you should all have any other questions, I encourage you to reach out. We certainly will circle back with the questions you had to get some responses to you on that. And we spoke primarily on branch operations, and I welcome the opportunity to come back if you want to talk more about the other units and break it down from there. So thank you.
Yeah, so are you able to just quickly touch on the flow on the back end to getting the license out? How that looks like on our end?
Sure do. Absolutely. Thank you. So we no longer print the credentials in 2019 in-house. That is due to many variables, but one of the main reasons is the product the credential is made out of, the polycarbonate. It is made and printed out of state. So that means an individual is leaving with a paper temp, which is valid. You renew online, you can print a paper temp. If you come into the office, you leave with a paper temp. But the process is if you renew online and or come into the office, you have a 24-hour hold within DMV for us to review anything that may kick back from any of the background checks. We'll do a check to make sure that there is nothing outstanding for any suspensions or anything from another state. There's many different, our social security check, just making sure that the number is valid, that it's associated with that name, date of birth. CDL component is really where our work queues are, which is that unit that I was referring to about the 10-day turnaround. From there, it is released 24 hours on the good path, on the easy path. No work queues, nothing came up with, this is the good path. From there, it is printed out of state, and then you receive it within 7 to 10 business days of a credential. When individuals will reach out to us, it is business days, so our holidays are in there as well. Sometimes individuals will receive it longer. We do receive calls from individuals that didn't get it and wondering why. We do not forward mail. The state of Vermont, DMV does not forward mail. So if the address was not updated, people will call us. I didn't get my credential, which I appreciate. And we have a nice little yellow sticker bin of returned mail. And then we'll go through there and then we'll identify what addresses need to be, or do they want to pick it up at an office?
Okay.
That answer your question on that piece of the flow you wanted?
Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome.
I did ask, I know we're a little short today, we're supposed to have someone else in the area, jury duty, yeah. Their schedule kind of got messed up. But Pat McMahon is in the office today, he's walking over. I know there's some follow-up questions, he's gonna have it further, more in-depth, but I know there's some CEO questions if we touch on today and kind of guide his next, when he comes in again as well, so.
So we'll, thank you very much for your presentation. We'll take a break and we will come back, maybe 10:45 in that area.